Welcome to this special episode of the Fertility Podcast, which is a montage of our Getting Pregnancy Ready category. Because if you're listening to this via your favourite podcast app, it's also worth visiting thefertilitypodcast.com because we've got so many episodes now that we've been publishing for 6 years. You might just be scrolling through them to try and find one that is relevant for you without realising that we've actually tidied them up to make them even easier for you to access. Now, what we've tried to put in there is what you need to know if you're starting out. There's not necessarily been a diagnosis of a problem, but you just want to kind of cover all bases and be as match fit, as I like to call it, as possible. And I'm chuffed to say that this special episode of the Fertility Podcast is sponsored by PharmaSure and their nutritional supplement Impril, which enables your body to maintain its natural metabolic balance and so ensures the very best chances of pregnancy. And what's great is that Impril works by providing the right balance of micronutrients, which not only improves egg quality in women, it is also designed to improve the fertilisation capability of sperm in men. So you can find out more at fertilityfamily.co.uk. Now, one thing that we're really keen to make sure that you know about is that when it comes to your periods, painful periods are not just how it is. And in recent years, especially since I've been making this podcast, the conversation about endometriosis, which 1 in 10 women of reproductive age in the UK suffer from, has become much more mainstream. And I want to just give you a few facts about endometriosis. It's the second most common gynecological condition in the UK and affects 1.5 million women, which is a similar number of women affected by diabetes. But on average, it takes about 7.5 years from onset of symptoms to get a diagnosis. That is pretty mad, isn't it? And I'm sure you're aware of the broadcaster Emma Barnett, how she's written a book about her own experience of endometriosis. It's called Period. Brilliant book. Hopefully we'll be having her chatting to us on the podcast. But I wanted to share a conversation that I had with Emma Cox, who's the chairwoman of Endometriosis UK. Emma and I spoke at a time where Lena Dunham, the amazing writer and creator of Girls, had written about her endometriosis, and she'd written an article in Vogue magazine. Now, it was really sad to hear Lena talk about how debilitating it had been and how she'd actually had to have a hysterectomy. Emma, however, was keen to highlight that a hysterectomy isn't a common outcome of people dealing with endometriosis. That's more likely an outcome of a diagnosis of adenomyosis, which we have covered on a previous podcast. Emma explained, however, how the diagnosis of endometriosis can be made.
I do think we need to bear in mind, though, that hysterectomy is not a cure for endometriosis. It is a cure, or can be part of a cure for a condition called adenomyosis, where endometriosis grows within the lining, within the muscle of the womb. Yeah. But again, nowadays, what we're hoping will happen is the sort of organs could be preserved, and treatment can be to remove the endometriosis itself. So for anyone who is having a really tough time with endometriosis, I think hysterectomy is an absolute cure for the condition, and people need to be aware of that.
Because the trouble with it is it doesn't show up on scans, does it?
Rarely. So there's a couple of things that can. There's something called an endometrioma, which is a big cyst on an ovary, and that might do. And I think one of the things is if endometriosis is very serious and extensive, some expert scanners can sometimes pick it up. And that's led to a little bit of a myth where people saying, well, it's not on a scan, so you haven't got it, which is not the case. You're absolutely right. It rarely shows up on scans. It is, after all, blood. It's just things in the wrong place and adhesions and scars and things like that, which are sort of don't show up generally on the scans that we do.
So is it right in saying that surgery is the only way to find it? You have to actually go in and have a look?
We say that a laparoscopic surgery, so going in and having a look, is the gold standard in diagnosis. And so until an expert surgeon's been in and had a look, that was the normal way to diagnose it. I think some people choose not to have a diagnosis in that way, especially young women might decide if they're, very young, might not want to have surgery too early on. And if they find it can be managed through their condition and their symptoms can be managed through drugs, etc., they may decide with their consultant to wait a few years, maybe till they're 16 or 18 or whatever, before they actually have that diagnostic surgery. But yeah, it's really the only absolute way to diagnose at the moment.
Now, the author Hilary Mantel, who has written extensively about endometriosis, one of the things I read that she talked about was how endometriosis is not easy to talk about because it can't be explained in a phrase. It is complicated to explain, isn't it? Because it does present in different ways and there's different stages of it, aren't there, from 1 to 4?
Yeah, it is a complicated disease. And I think really, it has a prevalence to asthma or diabetes. And actually, one of the things is it's not a household name. And those things, we need to get it to a state where someone says, I've got diabetes. They don't necessarily have to explain what the condition is because people know. So I think we've got a long way. But I think Hilary's absolutely right. It's not an easy one to diagnose, to explain.
Now, when it comes to getting pregnancy ready, we really want to make sure that you're thinking about what you can do from the inside out. And gut health in terms of your fertility is a really important thing to understand more about. So we had a conversation with Dr. Cecilia Kitic, the founder of the IVF Project, and Dr. Sue Reed, who is a dietitian and microbiologist, both in Australia, talking about how infertility can be associated with an unhealthy gut, particularly increased inflammation and also a low diversity of bacteria in the gut. And here you're going to hear about the key things that people get wrong when trying to eat right in order to have a baby. And Kate quizzes Sue on whole grains.
When we look at fertility or infertility, I should say, it's all about looking at the gut and how healthy the gut is. And as you probably know, infertility is usually associated with dysbiosis of the gut, increased inflammation, and a low microbiotic diversity in the gut. So what we mean by low diversity is you don't have a lot of species of bacteria and you don't have a huge abundance, whereas if you have a high diversity of bacteria in your gut, you've got a healthy gut. So that's fantastic if you are trying to get pregnant. So the big thing around what food you should be having or not having is to steer clear of all the ultra-processed or showtime foods, as I like to call them, and focus on really good whole foods. And by whole foods, I mean things that haven't been manipulated and processed. So things like beautiful vegetables and fruit and nuts and seeds and whole grains, all that sort of thing. And that's what we really focus on with our clients. And that helps you build a really healthy gut. So it's kicking out the things, and this is for the ladies and the men, of course. This is like kicking out the things that are like ultra-processed meats and soft drinks and all that sort of thing, and just giving those poor little guys in your gut really what they're after, because that's who we're trying to please, really, is to just get that gut nice and healthy and make them happy, because they will do a lot of things for us if we do that.
And you talk about, you mentioned there about whole grains, and I know that you talk about how that can help thicken your uterine lining and increase implantation and obviously prove success with IVF. Can you explain a bit more about that and what changes you would suggest that ladies made to help improve all of their success rates?
Yep, sure. So a lot of the ladies we see actually don't generally have whole grains in their diet, because it's a bit of a trend at the moment to, get rid of carbohydrates. And I think carbohydrates are a really misunderstood food group. So we always talk to our clients about the goodness of carbs and why whole grains are so good for you. Because whole grains are full of so many vitamins and minerals and antioxidants. So by feeding your gut bugs these whole grains, they produce a lot of things, including, and I won't get into the short chain fatty acid thing yet, but they produce a lot of metabolites which feed back to help the endometrium grow and make everything more fertile. So it's all about like the whole grains. When you eat a whole grain, there's lots of fibre in there that we call prebiotic fibre. And prebiotic fibre is actually food for your gut bugs. So prebiotic fibre is a fibre that doesn't get digested until it gets down to your large intestine. And when it gets down there, it gets fermented by our beautiful bacteria, and it's food for them. So that helps them with that diversity issue that I was talking about before. So it helps them grow, it helps them become more abundant, and that leads on to numerous other reactions that can help increase the fertility.
So we've talked about things that might be affecting your periods. We've talked a little bit about gut health. I also want to make sure that you're aware of the importance of sleep. When it comes to trying to conceive, it is so important that you're getting decent sleep. And I had a chat with fertility nutritionist Melanie Brown about this, about the impact of sleep on your fertility. She'd just been to a conference about women and sleep, and there'd been this discussion about the importance of our circadian rhythms and subsequently the impact that they have on our fertility.
Especially nowadays with people getting less and less sleep. And one of the most interesting parts of this conference was a professor from the States who did the bit on circadian rhythms. And that's the part that I'm quite interested in, because I see so many clients that basically, are getting home from work at 8 o'clock and having their supper at 9 and then trying to have some downtime, and they're not going to bed till midnight. They're fretting and worrying, and then they have to get up some of them get up at 5:30 that go into the city, or they've got long commutes. And I wanted to find out whether this would directly affect fertility. And actually, it's always been known for a long time that shift workers, people who work for airlines, so stewardesses and pilots, have always been, it's been known for some time that they have menstrual irregularities. And, even long haul travel for the rest of us going to Australia can send our, menstrual cycle, absolutely pear-shaped. But if you do this on a regular basis, there's certainly a great deal of evidence that fertility is quite diminished. But I didn't really know whether it affected us, nor people who don't work on shifts to the same degree, and it seems certainly that it does. And the things that I was specifically looking at were the things related to fertility, to IVF, and so I was really pleased to see that things were referred to. So, for example, the thing that I didn't know was luteinizing hormone, which is the hormone of ovulation that surges mid-cycle, and basically that surge pushes the egg out of the follicle into the fallopian tube. And that hormone is under that 24-hour body clock control. And so any disturbances to that could potentially affect ovulation.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, and I don't think anybody knows. I mean, as usual, whenever you go to conferences, always, and more research is needed, which is true, big trials need to be done.
We also spoke about sleep hygiene and what you can do to sleep better and how light can help you.
The light thing was very interesting because, and I always recommend that my clients use a SAD lamp, a wake-up SAD lamp, so one that wakes you up in the morning or that you put on your desk, because there's certainly evidence that getting 20 minutes of natural daylight, and even this weather is fine, in the morning time before 9 a.m. Can set your master clock, your circadian rhythms properly. So if you're getting up in the dark, so winter time, there is a relationship. Well, there are studies showing that IVF success rates are lower in the winter. They're higher in the spring and the summer. And it's probably to do with vitamin D and, maybe people generally feeling better. But it seems that I think it's probably also to do with this fact that you get up in the dark, you go to work in the dark, you've got artificial light, the built environment is this artificial light all the time, and you come home in the dark. And so you just don't, from between October and April, well, now obviously it's getting light in the afternoon, but people are still in the office at this time, So actually, there is a lot of evidence that you can start setting your clock by exposing yourself to this blue light in the morning. So it's either walking for 20 minutes, being outside at 8 o'clock when it's light, or it's using the lamps, which are especially blue light, to wake up in the morning. And then obviously blue light is our wake-up light, but it's not our going to sleep light. So in order to set ourselves for going to sleep and to be able to release melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, and as we know, a very potent antioxidant. So there's lots of research on the use of melatonin during IVF for improving egg quality. So melatonin is used. I quite often recommend it as a very potent antioxidant. So if your melatonin isn't working properly, and that's dark triggered, dark, warm light. So the advice would be, to prepare for going to sleep. Preparing for going to sleep is not being in a bright bedroom, going on Facebook, checking your phone, all that kind of thing, and then turning off the light and lying down and hoping you're going to go to sleep, because the chemicals haven't been triggered. So you have to, after about 6 o'clock, you've got to kind of calm down the light, and apparently you have to prepare, this expression, sleep hygiene, which is a kind of rather odd expression, but apparently it's very important, because it's telling your body to get ready for bed, to get ready to go to sleep. So it's calming everything down in the right order. And so maybe having a warm bath, or, I always say to my clients, look, have a warm bath. I'm a big fan of Aromatherapy Associates Deep Relax Bath Oil in it. Read Grazia or Living Magazine or Hello, something like where you can just look at the pictures and not get stressed. And then warm bed, cold room, so having the heating on. We are evolved to be able to sleep in very cold temperatures, and so it's believed that having the heating on at night when it's in the winter is really bad for our sleep. We need our warm bed as if it's covered in bear skins, and then our icy cold cave air to get us to sleep properly. So it's all those kind of little things, but going to bed early enough. There was a statement on one of the slides. It was lots of true and false statements, and one of them was, is the sleep before midnight more valuable than sleep after midnight? Because that's the old wives' tale. This professor who presented this presentation, she said, well, the answer is yes and no. That actually it's the quantity of sleep that you get. And if you go to bed after midnight, you're very much more likely to get less sleep than if you go to bed before midnight. And I know that from my clients and myself, that the later I go to bed, the more anxious I am about not getting enough sleep. So if I'm in bed by 11:30, I'm panicking. Oh my God, it's nearly 12 o'clock. Oh my God, I'm not going to get enough sleep. Whereas if I'm in bed by 10:30 and the light's off, I'm not worried about it. It's a kind of weird thing. But it seems to be that the cutoff point for sleep damage with everybody is under 6 hours.
I hope you're enjoying this montage of episodes from our Getting Pregnancy Ready vault. And I want to remind you about Impril, the nutritional supplement from PharmaSure, which enables your body to maintain its natural metabolic balance and so ensures the very best chances of pregnancy. To find out more, visit fertilityfamily.co.uk. Now, if you've been listening to the Fertility Podcast, you'll know that I host it with the brilliant Kate Davis, who is an independent fertility nurse consultant. If you've not yet listened and this is your first intro, Kate joined me about a year and a half ago as I wanted to add even more kind of evidence to the conversations I was having, because that's what the Fertility Podcast is all about, is making sure you've got information in your ear holes that you can trust. Now, Kate is my science bit, and we've recently shared a series called The Early Years, where we were talking more about what we wish we'd known sooner. And here, Kate explains what is missing in terms of our fertility education and, as far as us women are concerned, our understanding of our menstrual cycle.
Whilst we had the biology, I don't think we really had the understanding of the menstrual cycle and exactly what happens and when and why and what that means for your fertility, and how actually when you do try to conceive, it's just such a finite time that you've got to be able to conceive naturally. And if only we had that information, I think we'd be a lot better prepared, don't you?
Yeah. Totally. Well, especially now as I'm having like the same kind of conversations about what we didn't know. And if you're on any kind of social media forums, if you're in Facebook groups, or even if you're on Instagram, you'll probably have seen these kind of conversations and these questions. And one of the things that is still kind of dumbfounding a lot of people is tracking their cycle. And we know now we're in an age where there's loads of apps and there's all sorts of things that you can do. But I know it's something, again, that you're really keen to help people demystify, aren't you?
Yes, I'm really passionate about it. There's a lot of evidence suggests that having fertility awareness knowledge reduces your time to conception considerably. But we're really bad at giving that information. If a woman's trying to conceive, she might go to a doctor and perhaps she's been trying for a year or 6 months and will be told to go away and keep trying, but not given that vital information that can make the difference.
And what's the vital information, would you say?
So there are 3 fertility indicators that you can observe throughout your cycle, and these change. So one is temperature, one is cervical mucus, and one is the changes in your cervix. And these, I think, are amazing. This is lovely information that Mother Nature has given us that tells you so much about when you're fertile and that finite fertile window. And so if you observe these indicators, you can gather so much information about your cycle. And it's really, really empowering.
I know that we've kind of touched on this before in terms of just getting more awareness and kind of logging it down. And we talked about apps in the past. Do you think it's better, or it gets a bit overwhelming if people are using apps, or do you think it's better that they use like a notebook? What do you suggest?
I think it depends on what you're choosing, because there are so many different types of apps or monitors. So you can go from the very basic, and the very basic would be like a calendar app, which does no more than actually writing in a diary. So it's not giving you any more information. Then you can move on to something that actually does use some physiological information like temperature, and that can give you a little bit more guidance. And then obviously the monitors and the sensors give you an awful lot more. The only issue with some of the apps that claim to be able to identify your fertile window is that sometimes the algorithms that they use aren't sophisticated enough to be able to really give you that guidance. So I always say choose the right thing for you and what your needs are, and be careful in your choices.
So as well as experts sharing their wisdom, we also like to hear your stories as well. And next you're going to hear from Kym Campbell, who talks about her PCOS journey and how it affected her life.
And I think this will probably relate with a lot of women who do have PCOS or think that they might, where I just had irregular periods from pretty much the beginning of when I was 12 and started getting them. So I always kind of had a feeling that I possibly could have problems falling pregnant, but it's kind of like when you're young, you just kind of put it out of your mind. I was put on birth control pill, which is pretty common as well for women who have irregular periods. And I had a lot of other health issues as well. I struggled with acid reflux and low energy and acne, and I had insomnia. I struggled with depression, anxiety, so all sorts of health issues throughout kind of my 20s. And it wasn't until my 30s and when I met my husband and we started actually trying to fall pregnant that I kind of went on this journey and this search of trying to figure out how to become more healthy, to deal with all these health issues that I had. So I did go through quite a lengthy infertility process, did do a lot of fertility treatments, went through 6 rounds of Clomid, did an ovulation induction cycle, and then moved on to IVF. And I did have a couple miscarriages as well. So it was a very lengthy, difficult time in my life.
And at what point was the PCOS actually diagnosed? Was it quite early on, or did that take some time to actually give it a label?
It did. And this is really common as well. So I was in my 30s. I was like, I have irregular periods. This isn't right. It wasn't until probably my second or third doctor that it was even diagnosed. So that was quite frustrating as well, as just getting that diagnosis and being like, okay, now I have a label. Now what do I do about it?
Because I know from the people I've spoken to about PCOS and the experts that one of the biggest issues is the diagnosis and the symptoms that are being presented and making sure that kind of medical professionals are aware of those symptoms. But it has such a big impact. And I know you've talked about the well-being and mental health side of it as well, because I'm assuming growing up, your confidence was knocked quite a bit.
It is. It's really difficult. And I mean, depending on what symptoms come from PCOS, I mean, a lot of women struggle with weight issues. I actually did have lean PCOS, but I did struggle with, a lot of stomach fat, even though I was really active with the acne. It's really, really tough. So it's, not only do you have infertility that you have to deal with, there's a lot of really difficult things that you have to deal with on top of that. Hirsutism, male pattern baldness. So it's really not a pleasant disease to have, but it is very common. So it affects about between, I think, 15 and 20% of women. And a lot of those are women that aren't diagnosed as well. And I think it's as well the most common infertility issue.
Now, that chat with Kym is well worth a listen, as not only does she talk about how she overhauled her diet, but also how she finally got pregnant despite having failed fertility treatment. Thanks again to our episode sponsor, PharmaSure, as we wanted to make sure you knew all about Impril, which enables your body to maintain its natural metabolic balance and so ensures the very best chance of pregnancy, which is what this episode is all about. Now, what's great is that Impril works by providing the right balance of micronutrients, which not only improves egg quality in women, it's also designed to improve the fertilisation capability of sperm in men. You can find out more at fertilityfamily.co.uk. So I hope you found this episode useful. Do check out the show notes, as we'll put all links to the different episodes that you've heard little snippets of. And do have a listen to all the montage episodes we've been sharing for Fertility Week 2020 here in the UK, because I really hope it gives you a good overview of the many different conversations we've had here on the Fertility Podcast. Thanks for listening, and until the next time.